Hello and welcome back to Power to the People podcast. My name is Mariel Reyes Galvez, and today I have a very special guest, Chica.
Cool. Hi everyone. My name is Jiva. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently 19 years old. I'm a mechanical engineering student at Colorado School of Mines, and I've ran for office for Parker Town Council about twice now. And so I pretty much empower young people to enter political spaces because if not now, then when? So
Awesome. And we very impressed by Jiva because, again, you're 19 years old. I don't know if you heard that. Jiva's 19 years old,
yeah,
has ran for office twice now.
yeah.
What was that like for you? Why did you do it?
So I actually I grew up in Douglas County, which is a very conservative county. It's like I went to primarily a white school. I went to a charter school, and I know like both of my Indian parents they weren't necessarily like super strict on me, but they like wanted me to get a good education that was like valued as I was growing up, and so um, I pretty much like got really bullied, and there's just like a lot of white supremacy at this charter school, and so like I just like wanted to make a change because there's so many like students of color of me like that in my elementary school, middle school, and even like the high school that I went to, and I just feel like they need that space to talk to another person of color, and they weren't really given that space or that kind of like opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And running for office would definitely give me a name and a voice, and I think like it would like have me come out as like a leader, and I think that would be really helpful to students of color within my community.
Yeah. That's loaded, you know? And I remember hearing this for the first time, like from you, because I knew of you. I think I follow your Facebook page, and I was like, again, super impressed because I was like, how is like this teenager running for office? All of that clearly stems from somewhere. It stems from the need to help our communities to represent who we are as people. And I think that's something that our generation does a lot, is the constant need for representation. And it's not just a need, it's a want to do it ourselves, you know what I mean? It's that mentality. I feel like it's a brown woman thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, God dang it, I'll do it myself, you know? Like, if there's not people out there representing us in office,
Exactly.
I'm going to do that. And that's incredibly impressive, number one, because I hate politics. I hate anything to have to do with politics. I participated in a fellowship program where I was in office, and I was an intern for one of our senators, and it was an amazing experience. I would not do it again.
Mm-hmm.
I would not do it again. It was so hard.
Yeah.
So actually, like, starting up a campaign, doing all of that, number one, what was going through your mind as you were like, oh, I'm actually gonna do this, you know, for the very first time? Because I imagine there's a point of realization that you're like, well, I want to run for office, and then there's another point of realization where you're like, oh, I'm doing it right now. What was that like for you?
So definitely like, you know, throughout high school I worked on like lots of different campaigns, and like it would always be like me coming up with the strategy based on like the demographics of like the candidate that was running within that House district or that Senate seat, like just like the specific location that they were like running in. And so it was always me helping them with the strategy, but all of a sudden, like now that I'm 18, like I'm making the decisions for myself. And definitely like those campaign practices, like learning all of that throughout high school was helpful. But I think like doing it for myself like was like really surprising for the first time, because not a lot of like young people like run for office, right? And I feel like there's always like this question of, is this young person legit enough to run for office? That comes up, and like trying to maintain like I guess like the trust of like our elders, but also like trying to maintain that image of like I am a legit candidate. I think was like really difficult for me, because there was, I have my associate's degree from Colorado Early Colleges Parker, alongside like my high school diploma that I got together through dual enrollment. And so when I like first ran, many of the adults in my community was like, well, she has no experience. It's like a young person who has just like an associate degree, like that doesn't count. You have to have like a bachelor's degree. And I think like obviously like as a young person running for office, I face so much ageism, and like if you're of color, you're gonna face like lots of discrimination and racism and things like that. But like I think like whether or not like winning or losing, like I still consider it a win because I learned so much through campaign finance, and it honestly opened up the business world for me. So
yeah, and that's a huge part of it, right?
yeah.
Again, when we're far removed from these things, when we look at politics and running for political office, we often think, oh, well, these people, have the money to do it. These people are.
Exactly.
It's like, you gotta raise all of that. I don't just have this laying around in my bank account. I don't just be like, I'm running for office.
Yeah.
Some people have the privilege to do that,
Exactly.
and some people do have that money lying around, and then there's people like us who just are passionate and like want to do that. So I commend you, number one, for like doing that, and number two, doing that as a woman of color.
Thank you.
Doing that as a young person, because as a young brown woman, there is so much that goes through your head every single day. We're worried about family, we're worried about friends, we're worried about self-image. Like there's all these things as a young person that just go, and it doesn't stop. As you're growing up, it doesn't stop. They just evolve, like the same 1,000 miles an hour my mind was running at when I was 12, it runs at right now when I'm 21, and there's like the problems and the anxiety has just evolved. So I want to know what that was like emotionally for you, because I know that it's not just it's so, this type of work is so lonely, and at the same time it's full of people, so exactly. Number one, are all eyes on you, and number two, when you get to go home and reel back and lay in bed and think about what did I just do? Exactly. Pardon my language, but and we are not shy of cuss words on Power to the People pod. Well, like, what the fuck was going through your mind, dude? Because I would have just sat in bed like, what the fuck am I doing?
So definitely I had like lots of those moments. Like the first time, like I even I didn't even have it. First of all, like I never even had a goal of like running for city council. Like
really?
No, I didn't. I was actually a DNC delegate for Senator Bernie Sanders that summer, and there was a couple of adults that are like, well, what's like your next big step into like politics? Like you've like climbed up the ladder, and I was like, and like a couple of people are like, you do realize that like you're 18, like you could run for city council like within your town. I was like I could. And like, to be honest, like this was something like I wanted to do for like a really long time, like in high school. Like I wanted to enter like a political office, but like to like come to that realization when you're like 18, you're like, oh my god, I'm 18, like I can finally run for office, was kind of like an aha moment for me. And so I was like, I remember, and I have to give credit to Jorge Hernandez, who is actually a former candidate for Denver Public Schools, and I actually went to his launch, and I was like, he was 19 at the time, running for Denver Public Schools, and wow. I was super proud of him because I was like, you're running for office, awesome, right? And so I was telling him, I was like, I'm thinking about running for like city council in my area. Do you think I should do it? And he's like, oh, gee, would do it. And at the time I was like, I don't know if I should, because Douglas County is like a very conservative area, and like I knew that people weren't gonna automatically like a brown young woman like me, and he was like, you're gonna get so much out of this. And I was like, true, like people are gonna know my name, like people are gonna see me as this like young person, like they're gonna see me as like this young change maker, and I'm gonna get a lot of opportunities from there just because I ran for office. And so I was telling Jorge, I was like, I didn't know how to file or anything, so I was like, Jorge, if you don't come to my house to teach me how to file, I'm not running for office. And he's like, looks like I'm coming to your house on a Sunday tomorrow at 10 a.m. to teach you how to file. And he did. And like I feel like he was one of like the biggest reasons like why I ran for office, is like because he kind of gave me like that confidence that morning to just be like, okay, here's how you file for office, this is what you do, go talk to like the town clerk, and like I pretty much like followed through with all the steps, and I did it. But like it was definitely like the first time I ran for office was during my first semester of college,
Mm-hmm.
and it was over the pandemic. And
Oh wow.
I think the hardest thing was like I didn't like I knew that I wanted to go into some kind of STEM field. Like I was running between like, computer science and mechanical engineering,
Mm-hmm.
and I ultimately took computer science as like my major for the first semester when I found out that that was absolutely not my major. So I like switched like
I've heard
halfway.
that happens.
So I switched to mechanical engineering during like my second semester, but like when I was running for office, like it was just kind of like me taking the classes and like me kind of like falling through, and it was definitely like a mental health drain. Like I mean, I wouldn't like say like it was a big mental health drain, but
No, but that's hard.
it is hard,
It's hard.
because
Trust me, I've dropped
Yeah.
out of school like twice now. I have changed my major like 3 or 4 times in the past 2 years. So like number one, holy crap. Like that's a lot, dude. That's a lot. You're juggling school, you're juggling like I imagine social life, you're juggling like how do I even do this in the first place? Because no one's out there teaching young people how to run for office. You just sound like you're a well-connected human being, right? And like you've proven that time and time again, which is why we're sitting here right now at the Yabo House of Pod. Let's go. But like
Yeah.
all of these things, and it's what we were talking about earlier, like blessings and
Yeah.
things that fall into your lap, and you're just like, how did this happen? Like I'm sitting here right now.
Yeah.
Total turning point, to have a friend genuinely teach
Exactly.
you how to file for office and care enough about you
Mhm.
that they're like, well, I'm dropping everything and I'm doing this right now because that experience is meant for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a shit ton to go through, right?
Yeah.
You've got like a sandwich tower of things
Yeah.
that are just going on in your life.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance that now?
I mean,
Even throughout the whole thing.
yeah. So like
You're here, you're alive, so you survived. How did that happen?
Yeah, no, I was like, I genuinely was like, am I gonna survive this? But I mean, like, it was,
that moment you're just hanging on, you're like, oh god.
yeah, no, like for real, like during, like, I mean, that first semester, like, I think it was just like really difficult because like I could not get any volunteers, like I couldn't get anyone for my campaign, and like you have to be like the sole candidate, like the sole person to like fundraise everything, to like manage everything. And I think one thing that was really difficult for me was like it was the general election, and like Joe Biden was like running at the same time like I was running, and like everybody has like their focus on getting Donald Trump out of office.
God.
So I'm like here's this like young person trying to run. I was like, could you like make sure that you
Please,
vote me in?
please.
Exactly. So
Oh Lord.
I think like that was like I don't know. There was just like so many campaigns like going on at the same time, and like there are such limited Democrats like within Douglas County that we were like we're trying to like share volunteers, and like there was like so much like volunteer burnout by the end of that. And a lot of it was me just like walking and knocking on doors, and in the end, I mean, like I didn't do bad though. I think I did pretty well. Like I man, I don't even like.
You
remember
had
the
your
number,
cartoon moment. Your Jiva
Yes.
for City Council posters.
Yes. I got so like the winning amount of votes in the general election was around like 8,000 votes, and I got 3,600.
Holy shit! For your first time.
For the first
with
time.
No help.
I mean, it felt. I mean, like I
Ladies
didn't have
and
a
gentlemen,
kid.
this is why we brought Jiva on. You know how many votes I would get? 1. You're like one of my dogs or something. Like not even my family. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, but I did get about like I got less than half, but I got very close to half, and I think that was
3,000 people.
I mean, that was something. Like I would like my
At
dad
18
was like
years old.
yes. I mean, my dad.
I'm sorry, it doesn't fit in my brain.
No, like I mean, my dad was like, oh well, like this is like a big major milestone. Like he's like, I would have never gotten that many votes like if I had ran, and so I mean, I felt pretty good about it, but definitely like it was very difficult because I had always run campaigns like in person, doing field work, like knocking on doors, like phone banking and getting people like together in person. And when the pandemic hit, I was like, how do I come up with a strategy like a campaign strategy where I can connect with people virtually, because that's really hard to do, especially when you have like campaign finance and campaign laws that say like, oh well, you can't like, mass text like your entire community at like, for like a week or something, like, like it was hard because like it was just like it was hard to connect with voters over the pandemic, and I think like.
And people get tired around election time of getting all these text messages. Like, the burnout is real from volunteer. And then we're in the middle of the panoramic, and the panoramic is really panoramaing right now. God, that's insane. So, I mean, you're a young person. I imagine you turned to social media.
Yes, that's exactly what
I like.
I think like there was a fair amount of like, I mean, I had like a good amount of like followings on my Instagram already at the time, and like I posted about like me running for office.
She's popular.
No, I'm not really that popular. No, I'm really
not that much, but she is, but not that much.
I mean, I was
average popularity.
I mean, I was like, I think I was not expecting to gain that many followers in like the next couple. Like, I'm not a big person even like about followings. Like, I'm just like a kind person here to help people, and if you want to follow me, then follow me. If you don't want to follow me, like then just unfollow me. Like, like I'm not like that person that's like all the YouTubers that ask to like subscribe, like to their channel. Like I'm not like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of like there. I'm just like there to be like a resource, and I think like I just naturally started like having people follow me because like not only like I think it was a different moment for them when I ran for office, but also like I try to educate as much as possible like on my Instagram.
Well, I think just the thought of a young person running for office is impressive, and we've seen that over and over again. That is impressive. What is impressive about you, Jiva, is you go the extra fucking mile, all right? Like, again, you're educating people as to here is how you vote. It's not just, I'm running, like, all hail Jiva, let's go.
Yeah.
It's, let me sit down, have a talk with you, teach you how to run. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to get somebody else to talk to you. Like, that's just the type of attitude that you have. Yeah. And that's really impressive, and it entices people to follow you and to get you into spaces like that. Let me stop.
Yeah.
So
I have a lot to say. I have a lot to say.
All of this is just like a journey and a half. You know what I mean? Like this is so much. What was the second time like? You have a little bit more experience going in. You filed once already. Was it any different?
Yeah, I mean it was definitely different because like the first time I ran, I was like I knew it wasn't gonna be like a, it's not a general election, it was a special election. So like I mean like we had to like really change like our campaign strategy, because the thing is like like most people vote like on the November election, which is like the general election, right?
You say we, who's we?
All voters. I mean, I talk about it in terms of we because like we, when I say voters, I really think of us to be as like a family, like I think community as like a family. I don't really think of us like, I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be housed. I want everybody to have receive like a reasonable income, like that's what I try to say, like family as we, because like we ain't there's a good amount of rich people in Parker, but there's a fair amount of middle class people who don't realize that like they are middle class. And it's like the second time when I was running, I definitely had to change my like campaign strategy because like I mean we were still over the pandemic, but a special election means that like you're gonna get less voters, because it's just kind of like a random election like happening in like whenever the council decides, and people aren't going to know that like a ballot comes out. People are going to look at the ballot and be like, oh, it's probably like a scam, and then they're going to throw it away. And like I had to do as much voter outreach as possible through like my literature, my lit drops. I did do canvassing over the pandemic, which was like, because I was like, the only way to get people to vote for me is by having my volunteers have those valuable conversations with them. And I knew it was like a risk with like my volunteers like getting COVID and everything, but I was like, wear a mask, we know how to be safe. Like I think if we follow the procedure and the protocol, we'll be fine. And like at that time, like there was a fair amount of people who are like already vaccinated and everything. So we were like trying to like groove back
You
into
said
that.
this was
Yeah.
November of last year?
This was like during April for the second time I ran.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I mean, I definitely I did double my like voter percentage score, even though like I got
Oh,
less
wow.
votes
Mm-hmm.
during the April special election, but like
Well, I mean,
that was
a lot of people weren't voting at the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Elections look so different now.
yeah,
Things just look so different now in the
Yeah.
world that we're in. And so I see you like struggling between like, okay, this is what was allowed back then,
Mhm.
like this is what is allowed now.
yeah.
What is the world of voting, and what do you see what that's gonna look like in the future? I just know that like I've only ever dropped it in a mailbox and
Yeah.
let's go, 'cause I don't like being around people in crowded places. So
Yeah, I mean, I think like, you know, I'm lucky to, I think we're all lucky to live in the state of Colorado because, you know, in Colorado at least, like there's mail-in,
mail-in ballots.
yeah, mail-in ballots. And like, I think like the benefit is like that gives access to pretty much like voting for everyone, you know, like even for those who have disabilities who can't really come to the ballot box. And I think like the
People
benefit
like Maddie who
Mhm.
claim to love people and then so she
have
doesn't want to
anxiety.
go.
Yeah.
The
I
social
mean,
anxiety's real.
yeah. I mean, like, but that's the thing is like, you know, Colorado has that, and I think like that's the best part
Yeah,
about
we're
Colorado.
privileged in
Yeah.
Colorado to have that right to mail in our votes and like
Yeah.
trust that that's going to be a safe system. I'm like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, the process is done through like election judges, and like pretty much like, you know, every single voter who like puts their vote or like turns in their vote into like the ballot box. I mean, there are specific election judges, and like, you know, they're hired, they're paid, and like they have to like sign like a contract saying that like, you know, they're not going to like cheat on the election, and like everybody is like obviously monitored, right?
Yeah.
So like I think that's a good thing about Colorado, but like in other states, like when we see like, you know, Georgia, like obviously like huge voter suppression, you know. And I think that like as young people like start to enter political spaces, like as we start to voice our concerns about like voting, I think like the demographics of voting is going to really change. And I think in the end, hopefully praying that we will have mail-in ballots like pretty much nationwide, because
Yeah.
I think
and like
it's
safe
reasonable, yeah.
too, you know, like safe mail-in ballots, not just like
Yeah.
things that can be dumped on the side of the road because people are not voting the way that we want them to vote.
I would definitely like electronic voting, but like I think I'm conflicted on that because
Yeah.
I really think that like, you know, saving paper is one thing, right? But then like also, you know, it's easy to like cheat off of like an electronic.
It's easy to cheat. There's
yeah.
hackers, you know, like
Yeah.
we know the implications of technology. I mean, we work in a space where technology is readily available to us. It's a blessing, but at the same time, it can be like the worst thing for you, for your mental health, for your safety, for your bank account information.
Yeah.
You know, like there's all of these implications that come with technology and the internet, because I imagine that we would vote through the internet, because there is like ballot stands, right, where you can input your information. Not everything is written down anymore. However, it is not available online. It's not until last year, 2020, because of the pandemic, that online completing the census online was an option, right? That was extremely revolutionary, not talked about enough. But when we do talk about it and think about, you know, what if the census was hacked, or what if our voting internet thing gets hacked,
right?
There's all of those implications. Votes can be manipulated,
right?
A shit ton of things can happen,
right?
But I think that's something our generation is going to have to face. Like, if we're here for a while, that's a question that we in leadership will have to be asking ourselves way later, because I imagine we're going to continue to be dependent on the internet. We're going to continue to be dependent on phones and technology, and they only keep evolving.
Right.
So I wonder, what is the virtual campaign look like for you? What did that look like for you? Are you doing it again? And on top of that, you mentioned earlier that there was, you know, regulations as to what you can and can't do for a campaign.
Right.
Are there any rules around what it looks like on social media at all?
Yes, it does.
Really?
Yes. So actually, like, it's funny because like, if you have social media, so like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, like you cannot. It is by law. Like if you are running as a candidate. And I feel like if you're running for like a smaller race, I feel like people can't really tell, but like, it is still like by law that like you want to follow those rules, but like, definitely like more people are going to be tuning into like congressional races because like it's easier to catch them, right?
Yeah.
But like by law, if you are a politician or you're a candidate and like you're using a Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, you can't block like anybody. Like you have to keep it public. Yeah, if you keep it public, like you can't block anyone. You can't like censor anyone.
Like if he's so much, when someone's being rude, like on your Facebook,
exactly.
You can't shut that.
You can't shut that down. No, because it's like if you're like an elected official and you're like serving public office, and like you put a post that's public. Like you can't like delete their comment or anything like that. You just have to like you have the choice to like either respond to it or to not respond to it and just keep it on there.
Yeah.
But you definitely like you can't like block them or anything like that, and that's just like a rule. That's just like a law. Like I feel like a lot of people don't know that, but like I learned that like when I went through like a specific.
That is so messed up. I don't like that.
Yeah,
I don't like it at all. If someone's being rude, somebody is like, I've seen these political things get messy. Like, yeah. This is why I didn't like it growing up. Because growing up, I did student board of education, so that meant I got to sit in on a lot of Denver Public Schools boards meetings, and even those, were just like I was like, y'all are adults, bro. Like y'all are getting into it into each other's personal lives. These candidates, I remember one time. I don't know if I'm gonna include their names, but I saw Xochitl Gaitan go up against Angela Cobian in a debate, and she was like, I heard that you were running for this position because you want to be deputy mayor, and I was like, is that allowed? Like, you're not allowed to. And Angela, like, obviously, amazing woman, handled it with grace in class, and she was like, like, I do this for my community because I love people, not because I want another thing on my resume. And I was like, yes. Yeah. Shut the house down, sis. But at the same time, I was like, but you shouldn't have to shut the house down. Because why is someone coming for your personal life in whatever job, you want to do? Or, again, the school board election is unpaid, bro. Like, to make some money, bro. Like, do you not want to? So, like, I can't imagine not having the power to shut that shit down. And virtually, if somebody's coming and posting some fuck shit on my page, I'm like, you're blocked and deleted, and the comment doesn't exist, and like go away, Yeah.
So I think like I have to say both of them are actually good friends. Both. So I think it's hard. No, it's okay. Like both of them are good friends. So like I don't
have any beef with them. I just thought like seeing that as a teenager, I was like, yo, y'all get spicy over here.
I think like you see, I think that's the problem though. Like you see this older generation, this entire older generation, they have created like this competitive society. The
presidential election was nasty. It was nasty when Hillary ran against Trump. And it was nasty this one with Biden and Trump. Like we sat there as a nation. And watched two grown bicker like children. No, you're ugly. No, you're ugly. Like Like thanks for representing the future of our country. We love that.
Yeah, to be honest, like I was watching that debate and I was like, this is just pure entertainment for me. Like right now, like this is like bring out the popcorn.
America, bro. Yeah. America and American politics have become a sitcom.
Exactly.
So then you you have to sit there, watch our nation's leaders do that, and then tell people, I'm 18 years old, 19 years old, and you have to take me seriously.
Yeah. I think
people aren't taking politics seriously right now when this is what's going on. It's so
exactly.
And then on top of that, you can't block people.
Yeah. I mean, like, and I think the
We
hardest
live in
thing
a
for me,
society.
the hardest thing for me as like a young person was definitely getting the comments, because like, you know, you're gonna face the ageism, you're gonna face the racism, and you know, a lot of the conservative people in my county were like, you know, you just don't have the experience, and I'm like, I can at least talk better than Donald Trump. Like, I can give a better speed. Like, you know, like, you're gonna tell me I don't have the experience. And like, you know, I feel like the older generation is also so hung on like a bachelor's degree. They're like, you know, like, I feel like they don't understand that Gen Z is like a completely different demographic. Like, you know, we're not talked about just in like
different.
Exactly, like in like a generation, like you know, I was reading an article the other day about like how millennials around like 40s were like making it really quick, and they were becoming like super rich, and Gen Z is like one of the generations who's getting rich really fast at the age of like 24. Because we're not only like knowledgeable, but like I think we've been through like some serious tough times growing up. And I feel like, you know, the older generation who has created like this entire rat race, like I finished running the rat race years ago, you know, like I'm just here to help young people grow, enter political spaces, and like, you know, like that's what I tell other young people. I'm like, you know, you can't compete with me because I want you to win too. Like, I want you to win, like, political office. Like, whether or not I win or I get elected, like, I want you to enter these, like, political space. And, you know, I want you to write the same policies that, like, we all talked about, that we all want. And I think, like,
we push as many of us as we can, and then one of us is bound to make it. Come on.
You know, and that's what, like, a lot of my friends were saying. They were like, you know, move out of Douglas County, move out to a place where, like, you know, people deserve you, deserve a leader like you.
100%.
I was thinking about that, and, you know, I, like, right now, I was thinking about running for, like, you know, Douglas County School Board, but that was also getting ugly, especially with, like, critical race theory, like, on the rise and everything. So I was like, you know,
but that's how they do it. That's how they push people like you and me out of these things. Is just reluctance to change.
Yeah, and like, you know, I'm just right now, like, one of my focus is like to act like, you know, after I ran for office, I was like, we got to focus on like the people who are really going to be there for us. And when I heard about like the tragedies that were happening in like Afghanistan, I was like, you know, we gotta house them in the state of Colorado, because I know that Governor Jared Polis recently put out the letter saying, like, you know, we're going to accept all these, like, refugees, and Colorado's ready for that. And I was like, we could use some hell in, like, Douglas County. We could use some of them Afghanistan refugees here in Douglas, because, like, you cannot find a single Muslim in Douglas County. Like, you cannot, like, you know, and I was like, with the amount of racism with just, like, a black student entering, like, Chaparral High School, or like, you know, an Asian woman, like, entering Chaparral High School, it's just crazy. I was like, we could use, like, a plethora of, like, Muslims here in Dugco, and I think that's, like, one of the initiatives I'm working on, because, like, you know, whether or not...
Can you explain, I don't have the context, at least. Has there been incidents, like the ones that you're mentioning, of people?
Oh, yeah, like, shit, like, I don't try to cuss, but, like, shit's been crazy in Dugco, like... You know, I remember driving, like, every day to school, and, like, there's just, like, this one, like, there's a fair amount of, like, Republicans who are, like, living in a cult within, like, Dugco, and, like, there's a lot of, like, hate towards, like, LGBTQ people, like, you know, constantly calling them homophobic, and, like, it's just... There's been some pretty difficult cases in Douglas County, but, like... I mean, it's so common that, like, it's not, like, a concern anymore. Like Black people just move out. Like, and, like, you know, this past year, like, there's a fair amount of white people I know that were like, I just can't take this anymore. And I'm like, you know, like, and what pisses me off is the fact that, like,
flight.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
like, you know, like, I ate lunch in the bath. Like, I was in middle school. I ate lunch in the bathroom. Like, I've been bullied like fucking hell, and, like, all these white people talking to me about that, like, them ruining their mental health with, like, you know, all the shit that's happening to this county. Like, have you met me and, like, what I've gone through? Like, I think that's one thing that's, like, concerning, because, like, you know, I have white people that move.
It's that reluctance to change. Just, things should stay the way that they are forever. And, like, this is this is just how I grew up, or this is just how I was raised.
Yeah, exactly.
About the way that you were raised.
Yes, exactly.
You're raised on hatred and the hatred of other people, and like if you really claim to be Christian and you know loving, it says love your neighbor. Like it does not say sleep over with your neighbor and be involved in their life. It just says love them.
Yeah,
it just says love them. Period. Stay in your lane. You know, and like I get it. There's a clash in belief, but at the same time, the more reluctant you are to change, the more like you become your own villain.
Exactly.
And that's when that white flight happens, because they're like, well, I just can't take this anymore, and like this is just not a safe neighborhood anymore. It's people asking you to respect them.
I mean, the worst part is like conservatism in Douglas County, like they use that to their advantage though. They're like, we'll just, you know, like let's just keep chasing out the liberals. Like let's just keep chasing, and like, you know, like that's exactly what's happening. Like you're just letting that happen. Yeah. Right? Like you're supposed to stay here. I mean, like doesn't matter if you want to get involved or not. You just like all that matters is your vote within that county, you know. And I feel like people don't really see that or understand that, but you know, like I said, I'm continuously focusing on the people that are going to support me, like Afghanistan refugees, the people of color who are going to, you know, stand by my side. Yeah. Because I was like, white people in Dougco, nah, fam, you know, like nah. So I think like that's something I'm working on right now, but like definitely like there's so many like. I don't know, like issue. Like I feel like I'm at wit's end. Like by the end of me running for office, I was like, you know, I had written so many pieces of legislation just from high school, and it's like all sitting on like a Google Drive, like you know, and I want it to get passed, and like I've done all these things, but I just feel like I'm kind of stuck because I'm in a place where, you know, like I've done everything possible, and I just like don't know what to do anymore because I come from like a conservative county, and all I can do is help other young people get elected in a progressive way. Like that's all I can say.
All you can do, Jiva. Oh my god, the way you just like devalue the. It's not all you. It's like everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like pushing other young people to run for office, to represent, you know, the places that they're from, and speak up and speak out, and more than anything, you're teaching them. To have a voice, and
not
you
just
run for office.
I'm looking at you.
Absolutely not. You will find me at the Yebo House of Fun criticizing it all. I'd blow it up, Jiva. I'd get in there and be like, you.
I would help you. I would help you blow it up.
I can't. Listen. I still need to make my mother proud. At least just a little, just once in my life. I want to hear it. Just I'm proud of you. You know. We haven't gotten there yet.
She'll say when you run. She'll say when you run for office. I promise you that for sure.
We're not doing that. There has to be I will go to medical school if I have to.
Medical school.
Be a doctor. Good Lord. Anyway, where was I going? Pushing me. See, she's doing it right now. Be careful with Jiva. She'll convince you to run for office.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, you know, I'm getting my bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and like that's one of the hardest majors. And I still ran for office as a college freshman. Mm-hmm. Like, you can run taking a business major. You can run taking an English major. You can run taking a political science or public policy major. Like, it's not like, you know. I think running for office during like your undergraduate in college is probably one of the best decisions you could do, because I think like. I think it's unique, first of all. Like, you know, not a lot of students do that, like, for at least, like, for our generation. But I think, like, if, you know, in most areas, city council is paid. And I think, like, you know, if you enter a city council position, you are paid. You know, in Parker, I believe it's, like, a $1,300 stipend per month. And I think, like, you know, you can get it easily, like, part-time. It's, like, 4 hours on a Monday. Right, and then you also have to like choose another committee. Like if I had gotten elected, like, you know, that would be a $12,000 per year kind of salary, close to there, and like a 60-year salary like for 4 of those years, right? And I think that like just taking a look at that, I think you could pay off college tuition easily. Yeah. With, you know, per semester, like taking a look at rent, like, you know, or like balancing pretty much like your life out with just a city council. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm not saying like, you know, do it for the money, but like, you know, there's a good amount of people where...
I think that's a thing you have to consider though when you do it. Because again, school board is an
Unpaid,
unpaid
exactly,
position,
yeah.
so you gotta have your side hustle, or you have to like
Right.
make sure you're set up for the next, what is it, 4 years that you're on the board.
Yeah, it's like, it depends.
But you
in
gotta make
Colorado's
sure
4
that you're
years.
eating and you have a roof over your head. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So something like this, and city
Mhm.
council is paid,
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't be completely losing at all. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like you wouldn't. It's a leap of faith into something that could propel you elsewhere.
And I think like, school board. So I actually don't know if you know this, but Senator Brittany Pedersen, she and like her husband and I, like, he's kind of like a mentor towards me. But I mean, she recently passed a bill in the Colorado State Legislature, um, about like getting school board members paid. But it was kind of like, I mean, it like the policy. I was kind of like, I mean, obviously, like throughout the nation, like most school board members aren't paid,
Mhm.
but like she put in a bill where like I think you would be paid like $500 or something like that. Like, I don't remember the policy exactly, but like you would be paid like a stipend per school board meeting.
Oh.
So like I mean that's like $600 like per month, or like something
Yeah.
around there. But like
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a lot, but I think it's like a starting point. And I
Yeah.
think like I'm proud that like and like it wouldn't just be that like school board members would get paid. Like that wasn't done through like the state legislature policy, but I think like it was the fact that like school board members had to vote for themselves for that pay.
Mhm.
And I think like a lot of people, like a lot of the school board members I was talking to were like, well, like I don't really think of it as like me getting the pay. I think of me getting like serving the community. I'm like, but hold up. Congressional representatives, senators are also serving the community.
Mhm.
State representatives are serving the community. State senators are serving the community, and they're getting paid, right?
Mhm.
Like all the elected officials like are pretty much getting paid except for school board members. And like I think it's honestly like insulting to young people. I think it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
slap in the face to young people, because like there are educators, there are school board members who are trying to bring up the next generation, right? But they're not getting paid, right? It's a slap in the face to young people. That's what that is.
But to me,
And-
it's like if you control the schools, oh Lord, you control everything.
Exactly.
If you can control what schools open and close, and like which ones are online versus which ones, which ones have a mask mandate versus which ones
Right.
don't, that does a lot of shit in our society, especially like in the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? Like if you control the schools, you control everything. If you control public education, you control everything.
Yes.
If you control the school board, you control a lot more than just schools.
Right.
Um,
Right. And I think
So, like in my head, and this is why I could never run for office, because I'm like, this is all just a power scheme, and power structure, and fucking man, and society, and capitalism.
Yes.
But like again, capitalism and our government are extremely intertwined. Once you control. Once you have control of the school board, you hold a position of power, right? To control it for our community and keep our community's best interest in mind. This is why a lot of black and brown people who run, we use the trope of like, I'm representing my community. I have my community's best interest in mind. We also have our own best interest in mind. Right? Everybody does,
Yeah.
Everybody wants to make their pocketbook bigger, and like
I mean, I think like. I don't think it's just like the pocket aspect of it. I mean, I think like if I were elected and if I were getting paid that salary, I mean, I would go back to young people and be like, here's a day in life of a college student who is.
But that's too much work, Jiba. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying is like there's so many people who have the goal to just go and do it for free and do it with passion. And you and I know who those people are because we've witnessed that, right? And if they got paid, oh my God, they could do so much more. But it's a way of controlling, right? It is a slap to young people. It's because if you can control that, like if you can control whether someone burns out easily or not.
Exactly.
That you have control over whatever happens to public education, whatever happens on that board, whatever happens within capitalism.
Yeah.
It's a microcosm that is kept like if it's kept unpaid, it is kept controllable.
Right. And like I think like I that's like I mean I wanted to run for school board, I really did. And like I think the reason why I didn't run for school board is because of like all the nastiness and the politics of there was already a Democrat, and why would you be running against another Democrat and things like that. So I was like, okay, fine. But I think like if I had the chance to run for school board, I would, because like I think education has become, it's just been getting worse in the United States. It really has been. And if I had the opportunity to go back and make that change within curriculum, like let's just talk about Empower Community High School. Like this is one of the high schools I've seen for the first time in my life that have actually like prioritized mental health, and that have actually given like students a space to just like breathe and do the things that they want to do like on their own, and like it's not just like them like getting educated, like it's them like just like living life. And I feel like in most high schools you can't live life because it's all about getting to MIT, Stanford, or Harvard, and like every single academic counselor makes it a point that like you have to go to college, or like and if you don't, like you're a failure, or like you have to go to like some kind of school like trade school, or like and I think like I feel like there's like this set like strict saying within society that like if you don't do this you're gonna fail or something, like, and I feel like I want to see more schools like Empower Community High School like in other districts, because I think this is going to be like the next big thing, in terms of education. I think like this is what I imagine education to be for the future, and I just don't see it happening right now, but I really hope that it happens in the future, because like as young people, and I'm praying that young people will start to like enter political offices and they'll start like taking over school board spaces, I think that like we could really reform education, and I'm not like a big reformer, like we could change education.
Reform the whole damn thing.
I mean,
tear it down. Let's build it again.
I mean, like obviously core classes matter, but like also entering that space of like giving that space for young people to test the waters and see what their passions are, I think is also important. And I hope that young people get on the school board to make that change possible, and I feel like young people don't do it though. Like it's so hard to get young people to like run for office. Like you see, and like that's like the one thing I want young people to like, I guess like gain sense of, because like we're gonna go out to the streets and like we're gonna protest and strike and whatever for like climate and everything, but like the only way that we're going to actually like make that change is by exactly, we have to get in there, right? And like when you're 18, when you're 19, like you have to get in there. Like if you really want to make that change,
that's where our decisions are being made, like whether we like it or not. That's where big pharma and big like
those decisions are being made.
Those decisions are, that's where the influence is at.
The power
you have to vote. You have to change the policy. You have to change the loopholes. Again, part of me is like, blow it up. Let's just do it over. But that's realistically, that's not what's gonna happen. It could.
I mean, like the thing is, like that's the thing. Like I think that like it's not just about like young people. Like I was having this genuine conversation with my Indigenous friend the other day, and he was telling me like Jiva, you worked on so many campaigns, and like election after election after election, all these people that we like or we don't like get elected, but the policies of the people aren't really getting in place, right? Like we elect Democrats year after year, but even then we still see like housing affordability becoming a large issue, like a nationwide issue. We still see like and I think like my friend was telling me like what's the point, like at that point like young people just striking isn't that beneficial, and I'm like that's beneficial, like but we don't have that kind of power to make that decision, right? And I think like that's the problem with the older generation, is that they're bought by the bigger developers, and young people aren't. And if young people stay on the same page, if we stay on the same page on all the issues, I really think that we can, eradicate like homelessness. We can eradicate like the housing affordability issue. We can eradicate the healthcare issues in the U.S. And I think like that's where the fine line is at. I've talked a lot.
No, that's good. That's good. We've got a lot of material. I'm just like soaking it all in. I love to hear people talk about the things that they're passionate about, and clearly this is a huge passion for you, so I'm glad you're taking a break. I'm glad. And a break, I say, you're still studying and doing things like this. And there is something else that you're doing that's coming up soon. You are teaching people
I
to
hope
run
to.
for office.
Yes,
You're teaching young people to run for office. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm actually so I'm currently the HD House District 44 chair of the Douglas County Democrats in my area, and um, I'm hosting the first community event on October 16th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, on like how to run for office. I'm like typically like these community meetings are pretty much like it's just for like the community within that house district, but I am keeping it open as much as possible because like I really think that like young people have the power to make change, not just in like a house district, but like we could, it's like, you know, far beyond. And I've posted to my Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm just hoping that people will show up, you know, because like in the past we have not had that many people show up because it's HD 44 and there's like such limited Democrats in Parker. Like Parker is like one of the most conservative areas I know. Um, so like I really hope that people can join me. Like, you know, you can find me on all my social media and like DM me for the link, and I'm more than happy to like
We will have it in. I pointed this way because that was meant to like show Jiva's promotion flyer.
Dope.
It'll also be in the link in the description. Is there anything else you'd like to say before I close this out?
We have to do this again. We have so many things
We
to
really
talk
do.
about. We have
A
to talk
million
about.
things to talk about. I told you, this is not the only one that you're doing. This is just like an introduction to Jiva, to Power of the People, and to Yevo Pod. The minute I met you in person, I was like, yeah, we vibe, and like, there's so much more of this that we have to do because, you know, we've got a lot to talk about. But not only do we have a lot to talk about, you just know. When like another young person has been in positions of leadership and like can see from both inside with all of our emotions and all of our anger, and can step away and outside and like analyze every little thing that's gone on in politics from the start of it to where we are currently, like that's an insane thing to think about. You ever think about when Abraham Lincoln ran for president? I was like, yo, how the, like, quite literally handing out flyers. Could you afford flyers? Like, you know,
like,
to the age of the internet. Hello. Sorry. As you can see, my brain like shoots out into like the depths of history to like way.
It's valid. It's valid. For sure.
But yeah, anything to close this out? Any advice for anyone who might be thinking of running for office?
You know, I think if I had to give advice to a young person who has been thinking about running for office but has been on the lines because it's definitely hard, just do it. As Nike once said, just do it. No paid partnerships here, but I mean, like, you know, take that leap of faith and run, because, you know, whether or not you lose, you are going to gain so much knowledge on the campaign finance within your state, and that's going to open doors for you in business. That's going to open doors for you, you know, working in like the governor's office or like the attorney general's office. Like, I think, you know, just run for office and get your name out there, have people recognize you, and like, you know, work with other legislators to pass your policies, like if you don't get elected. But like, I really do think that you have the power to make so much change and you just don't recognize that. So take the leap of faith and do it. Do it.
I think it's the most amount of like forced and voluntary networking that you will ever do in your life. Because again, you had to talk to 3,000 people to get those votes. You know what I mean? You had to outreach like that. So you'll pick up some extremely useful skills from it, especially because right now we're still in a stage where our minds absorb everything. Even though we're very dependent on technology and phones and computers, I still think our brains are capable of a lot. So yeah, thank you so much for watching Power to the People podcast. This has been another episode of Young People in Politics, and this is why I do this, because of wonderful people like Jiva who get to share their stories with us and give us a peek into, number one, what it's like to just run, to be in policy, to know what the hell you're talking about 90% of the time, because I don't. And you know, what it's like to be a brown woman who faces all of these different things, the discrimination, the racism, the conservativeness that tells us that, you know, we don't belong in this country, we shouldn't be here, and still doing something so bold, you know, as running for office and trying to serve your country and your people, because that's who we are. I mean,
exactly.
Like, I don't claim anything. You know what I mean? Like, this is where I grew up. It's like, my community is here, so who are you to tell me that I don't belong here? I most definitely do, and I'm going to show you how. You know?
Exactly.
I went off into a tangent, and as you can see, you'll have to come back for another episode with Jiva so that we can talk just more and dive deeper into what it's like to be people like us in a country like this. But yeah, see you next time.